This conference will now be recorded.
So Howard Walensky wrote to me a couple of days ago, and he asked me what I thought about the new American Cancer Society numbers for prostate cancer for 2020. Some of you may have seen that ACS put out their 2020 numbers last week. And they were basically touting a reduction in the number of cancer diagnoses, et cetera, et cetera. And they put these numbers out every year. And I've been following them for a long, long time. And I usually download them and I keep them in case I need them. Anyway, when I looked, the numbers for this year, I just wrote them all out. Well, here they are. When I looked, what they showed was that in 2020, hi Alan, in 2020, their estimated deaths are going to be 33,330, and they're predicting 192,000 cases being diagnosed. And he said, well, what do you think of these numbers versus the previous numbers? And right after he asked me, I got a flyer from PCF, which I opened and read, which really pissed me off. And one of the issues was that PCF claims that you can't rely on these numbers because they're all estimated. Well, yeah, they've been estimated as long as I've been looking at them, and they've been good enough for PCF to claim that they're having an impact, even though they're estimated in the past. So now, because the numbers go the other way, the fact that they're estimated is a problem. But the biggest thing that upset me about the numbers, and this is what I plan to blog on in the next couple of days, was that unless, of course, Mr. Edel is planning to blog on the same issue, in which case we could do it together. We could have a joint blog. We could post it on yours and on ours, Alan, is that the numbers from 2011 to 2020 are really explained by the USPSTF recommendations. And for those of us like Alan and myself who were around in 2011 and we were vocal, we all said, you know what's going to happen here? If you stop testing, we're going to see a reduction in the number of men diagnosed. And then a few years after that, we're going to see an increase in the number of men who die, because men are going to get diagnosed when they're symptomatic, and sadly, they're not going to live more than 4 or 5 years in many cases. And if you look at these numbers from 2011 to 2020, that's pretty much exactly what we're seeing. That the numbers did fall off. The number of diagnoses did go down, and you know, the last couple of years they started going up again. And what we've seen is a reduction in the death rate, and now the death rate's going up again. You know, there's not a great
7:30 dinner.
There's not a lot of heavy science in interpreting these numbers. Anyway, that's why Walensky was calling me, because he plans to write a piece on this, and I'm going to blog on it, and we'll see. And for those of you who haven't, I'm sure most of you have this Prostate Cancer Foundation piece in your inbox. It's called "Why Are So Many People Misinterpreting the ACS Prostate Cancer Data?" And I think that what PCF has put out is very fallacious. So that's all I'm saying. And I'm handing back at this point to Mr. Hannum so we can identify who's on the telephone.
Okay, we had 2 people on the telephone.
Jay just joined.
Say again? Say again, please.
Jay Mills. I just joined.
Oh, hi, Jay.
Hey.
Hi, Dennis McGuire is on the phone also.
Okay, thank you. Welcome to the call.
Thank you.
you guys that are on the telephone, I just would like to say that we are now trying every time to post the chat blog in the forum, our prostate cancer forum that you can get to on the top of from the top of any of our pages on the website. So if we put links in the chat blog, in the chat window whilst you're on the line, then you'll be able to find them a little bit later. Okay, so I am now, because I've been talking way too much, I'm now going to just start writing down. Let's just see if there's anybody brand new today.
We had a guy named Tad who spoke for a brief second, then he hung up. I don't know who he was. He sounded like he was very depressed.
Yeah,
But
did he?
Todd?
TOD
No.
maybe, or either TAD or
No.
TOD. I'm not sure which.
Tad, we
Tad.
know who he is. What did he have to say?
Nothing. I said, hi, Tad, welcome to the call. And he says, hi. And he said something, but I didn't catch it, and then he hung up.
Some people, it's a tough thing to accept, you know, for some people.
Yeah, we know who Tad is, and
Has he been treated?
yeah. Ken, or is Jim? No, Jim isn't on the line. Ken, could you text him and see if you can get him back on?
Sure,
Would you mind?
not at all.
Thanks. Just tell him, sorry, but he should come in, and we'll talk to him and see how he's doing.
Yeah. Can I comment a little bit about the statistics, since I've had way too many in my life? I went to a physical group last week, and there was one guy in there that had a PSA of 17 that had just been recently diagnosed and just came out of the blue. And I didn't get into the details, but they missed it for 2 or 3 years. And it's tough to see someone when they're talking about radiation and surgery and they caught it so late. And it's just a horrifying thing to, when you catch it early, it can be deadly.
Well, unfortunately, I agree with you, Jeff, and unfortunately, this is a clear result of the recommendations made by the USPSTF.
Yes.
And
cause and effect.
Yeah. Alan, do you have any thoughts on the PSTF, on these new ACS numbers? Have you looked at them at all?
No, I haven't looked at them, and I haven't read the PCF response to it, but I will look at that. Is it on the PCF website?
I think it must be, because there is a link, and it takes you to their blog. So it's probably, if you can find the blog on the PCF website, it's probably the most recent entry on the blog.
But the summary of the
I'll look at that. I'll get back to you.
Okay.
so
Rick, you gave us your take on it, but unless I'm mistaken, you said PCF is fallacious take, but what was their take?
Well, I recommend you all read it, because they make 7 points here. And I really don't want to go through all of the points. One of the things that does bother me the most is that they are very upset that the numbers are estimated. But the numbers have always been estimated, as I said.
Yeah,
everything in life.
Estimated numbers before. Another point that they make, and I'm not going to go beyond this, because maybe we can discuss this next time when everybody's read it. But, they're saying, well, yeah, the numbers are going up, but we should be looking at the numbers on deaths per 100,000. And the deaths per 100,000 went from 19.4 in 2016 to 18.8 in 2017. Well, that's a difference of about 1 to 2%. I don't know where their deaths, I don't know where they're picking up the death numbers. Alan may know. But one problem I have is that a lot of deaths from prostate cancer don't get recorded attributed to prostate cancer. And so to say that the 1 or 2% is a success, it's not enough. It's not significant. What do they say in the statistical world? There's an expression when there isn't enough. When there's not a big enough, it's
Sufficiently powered.
okay. Well, anyway, so what I would recommend is that you all take a look, and then you can tell me that I'm wrong, and I'd be happy to hear that.
But Rick, to your point about the statistics being accumulated in the same way it always was, isn't that true of the deaths as well? I mean, there's no reason why 1 year it would shift radically.
Well, let me say this. The numbers that I'm talking about that are generated in the same way are the estimated numbers. So they have a model. So we don't know if they made changes in the model from 1 year to the next. It's probably available if you went to look at in the right place, but they have a predictive model. Okay. The deaths that Prostate Cancer Foundation is talking about, so many per thousand, I don't know if that is based on the estimated deaths or if it's based on actual deaths. They don't say. So they may be basing their deaths per thousand on the numbers that come out of the NIH or the NCI and not the ACS. I haven't looked at the deaths per thousand numbers.
Yeah, all I can say to that is the last time I looked at it, they had a very good model for estimating these things. They went down to the state level to accumulate statistics and had a model for projecting it based on what actually occurred. They changed their model, as I recall, in 2011 or so. So there could be like a difference between 2010 and 2011 due to the changes in their model, but it looked good to me at the time. But I don't want to comment on that until I've read what you've read.
Thank you. And Jake has been kind enough to post the PCF blog piece in the chat window. So you can just click on that in the
good.
chat window and it'll bring it up for you.
Good. Thank you.
All right. So let us get cracking on who we've got. And I don't think we've got anybody new. So let me see who would like some time today, and we'll go from there. So I'm going to give some deference to our board members because I know that they have some reports, and I'm going to start with Peter. Would you like some time, Peter?
Well, I don't really have anything much to say. I'm a little bit sore in the belly, but I had a procedure yesterday, but I don't have much else to say. I don't know the results yet. Hopefully I'll know on Thursday when I meet with Jeffrey Turner.
Right. Well, maybe you just give people a quick update on what happened to you yesterday.
Sure.
Okay. Len, anything that you'd like to talk about today?
No updates, Rick. Thank
Okay.
you.
Jay Mills, anything you'd like to talk about today?
If a couple things I might, yes.
Good. Okay. Dennis, would you like some time today?
Yes, I have a question, and I'll ask that. Save it to the end if there's time.
Oh, okay. Okay. Dennis Correa, I was going for, and I'm glad I got you. What about Dennis McGuire?
Yeah,
Yes?
no update. No update, Rick.
Okay.
Thank you.
Dennis, did you get the emails, and are you connecting with the Madison people?
Yes, I am. I did get your email with the introduction to the other member,
Great.
but we haven't connected yet. So that's on my to-do list. Appreciate
Great.
that.
They're good. They're really good. Usually Sherry we talk to, but they're good people, and I think he has a GU Med-Onc at University of Wisconsin that he likes a lot. So it will be a good connection to get you started there. Tad is not back, I don't think. No, I don't see Tad. He may come back, he may not. Alan, anything that you'd like to discuss today?
Just a question for the group if there's time.
Sure, absolutely. Carl Foreman, hello, happy New Year. Anything?
Hi, yes, I need some time, please.
You do, okay. Dennis, Dennis Correa would like some time. Jeff Ron, would you like some time today?
Yes, I would. I have some questions. And is my audio working okay from the computer?
Yeah, it's working just fine.
I tried the phone earlier and could not hear hardly anything on the phone. So I switched to the computer audio.
Okay. Ken Anderson, anything for you? He may have taken a break for a second and coming back, so we'll come back to it. Nope.
He may be trying to get Tad.
Yeah, because his microphone's off. But I do know Ken has something on his mind, so I'll give him a tick. Les Shelderup, anything for you today?
Not today, thank you.
Okay. Sylvester, anything for you today?
No, thank you.
Okay. Larry Fish, anything you'd like to talk about today?
Hi guys, nothing special, and I'll be in and out because I'm still at work. We have a meeting here too.
Okay, you are very welcome to come in and out. Ken, it looks like you're back with us. I put you down for a little bit of time. Is that good?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Tad just doesn't want to communicate in a group of guys.
Okay, that's fine.
Is he willing to? Would communication with email be better for him?
We're don't worry, we're on it, Jeff.
Okay, I just want to be as accommodating as possible.
Yeah, no, we're on it. We have two guys, Ken Anderson and Jim Ward, who are working with him, and so I think that they will reach out and we'll do whatever we can. Okay, Peter.
Why, yes, Rick, I would like to make a small comment. Thank you for asking.
Oh, Jake, so sorry.
I told you I should always be at the top of the list. I don't know why you keep forgetting that.
Yeah. Guilty as charged, Jake.
Just a small comment.
Do you have anything?
Is that your comment?
No. I changed the medication.
Okay, all right.
Great.
Well then, you know what? Top of the list, let's start with you.
Okay. Apparently my doctor, I was on abiraterone, and my doctor was not pleased with the result because it hadn't gone up too much, but it hadn't gone down. So then somewhere along the line, she got me signed up for apalutamide. I'm not sure how much better that's going to be than abiraterone, but at least I found out through the mail. Blue Cross sent me a prior approval notice, and then the pharmacy called me, and my doctor never said a word to me. So I kind of found out through the back door, but I started it. I took my first pills today.
Okay.
That's the only comment I have. I do have a visit with her tomorrow. I get a PSA, but I'm sure it's not going to be very good.
Well, I guess my first question to you is, how did you feel about the abiraterone? Because you said your doctor wasn't very happy with it and she switched you, but what about you?
Well, I talked about this, probably a month or so ago. I was not too upset that it hadn't gone up very much. I mean, I wish they had gone down, but I wasn't upset because they hadn't gone up. So it was in the 25.3 range, and I think it fluctuated by about a point from one reading to the next. So it obviously wasn't doing the trick, but I thought maybe it was holding, its own.
So do you want to share with the guys the pattern of your PSA, maybe going
Go to the
back
bathroom.
August?
30-minute drive. No stop. Nothing. Well, I mean,
I missed that.
Would you like to share with the guys your PSA numbers going back to August?
I have to look at my spreadsheet if you bear with me. In the meantime, we have somebody that just joined on the telephone.
Anonymous.
Okay, hang on.
The audio that I got was, I couldn't even hear. I'm on the computer because my audio was dead on the phone.
So, who is it that just joined us on the telephone? I actually muted you because I could hear you talking. Would you like to identify or prefer not to? Okay, so we'll leave them as we don't know for the time being. If you decide you would like to tell us who you are, feel free at any time and let us know if you'd like some time to speak to the group.
Yeah, he may not be able to hear you, but you might be able to hear him.
So, Jake,
I'm ready when you are, Rick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, in May, it was about 8. On abiraterone, my PSA was about 8.8 in May. It doubled by July, 16.10. Then in September, it was 24.7. And then on the 23rd of October, it was 23.8. And then on the 4th of December, it was up to 25.3. That was all on abiraterone.
Did you have a bone scan?
No, I haven't had a bone scan for years. I know I have. Alan, I have metastatic cancer. It's in my bones. I already know. I've got it.
No, but the way a doctor tells if a therapy is no longer working is not just by PSA, it's also radiographic progression. So it's important to take a follow-up bone scan to see if you're increasing number and size of bone mets before.
Well, I did have a PET scan in July.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, and it showed some new mets.
All right. So that tells you it's failing, right?
Correct. Exactly.
All right.
And she just didn't. The funny thing is, she didn't say anything to me about it. I'm going to change you, or I don't like this reading. She just submitted it to the insurance company, and it was approved. So As I said, I started the apalutamide today. We'll go from there.
Do they have any means of predicting success or failure, or is it just trial and error with a bunch of random drugs? Do they have any sense of progression with genetics or fitting with anybody's conditions, or is it just sort of trial and error still with various therapies? I went to a support group like last week, and people talked about 10 or 20 different drugs. They're just all over the place. A lot of older guys.
Well, to answer that question, as Alan just said, there are a number of tools that are available, such as different types of PET scans, bone scans, PSA, and a couple of I want to say, what's the alpha test?
Bone alkaline phosphatase.
Thank you. Alkaline phosphatase, prostatic alkaline phosphatase, and other measures. But it's really the skill and the experience of the genitourinary medical oncologist, or in Jake's case, the medical oncologist, to decide how to interpret all that information and when to make the changes. As you'll hear on this call, we've got other men who are in the process of making changes because one drug may not be working. And we really don't know within a class of drugs which one to try next, or if to try another next, what the next phase of treatment is. This whole issue of sequencing treatment is huge. Alan, would you comment on sequencing treatment?
In fact, I recently wrote an article about that, but that's for castration-resistant prostate cancer. For hormone-sensitive prostate cancer, it's really anyone's guess. There are as you said, Jeff, there are so many drugs now approved for that situation. Little is known about the optimum sequence, or if it matters at all. Stampede did a study where in one group they gave docetaxel and then abiraterone. In another group they gave abiraterone and then docetaxel. And it didn't make any difference at all which sequence they used. But that's for newly diagnosed hormone-sensitive prostate cancer.
It's curious that you mentioned that, Alan, because I've been castrate resistant for years, as far as I know.
Yeah.
At least to my understanding of the definition. And then she puts me on the apalutamide, which is, like you said, for hormone sensitive. So I found that a little bit strange.
Well, I congratulate you on having a medical oncologist who knows how to work the system and is able to get you new drugs like that before they're FDA approved.
I wish she would do the same thing for darolutamide. That's the one I want to try.
Yeah, I don't blame you. But
have you asked her?
Say again, Rick?
Have you asked her? Because if she can get you apalutamide, she can get you darolutamide.
I'm going to find out what does she have to do. I have an appointment with her tomorrow. I'm going to find out, what was her logic? How did she get it approved? Or it may be that it just went through. Sometimes Blue Cross doesn't always pay real close attention. Hormone sensitive, non-hormone sensitive. It might have just slipped through the cracks. I don't know. I'll try to find out tomorrow.
Yeah.
Well, Rick, remember this study you and I were just discussing recently, where they showed that for metastatic castrate-resistant prostate cancer patients, cabazitaxel was a better choice for guys who had already failed previous second-line anti-androgens, whether it be abiraterone or enzalutamide, to follow up with yet another second-line anti-androgen. I'm not sure if that's the best choice for Jake rather than cabazitaxel, although I don't know how you feel about chemo.
Well, I think, right. I'm willing to do chemo. She's trying to avoid that, to the maximum extent because she knows the way I am. She, it's like every 3 weeks, and she knows I don't like to visit any more than necessary. So she's trying to put it off. But I've heard the same thing. Ken mentioned it to me the other day about resensitizing to taking chemo and then resensitizing you to the AR inhibitors.
So on one of the forums that someone posted at Wall Street Journal, and they were talking about adaptive therapy, where they try to actually change the cancer cells by changing the drug regimen, trying to prevent castrate resistance by not hitting everything with like a sledgehammer, and possibly maybe resensitizing various receptors so that they're receptive to these drugs again is a possibility. They need to keep on moving the box and extending the boundaries.
You're talking about chemotherapy, resensitizing it through chemotherapy, Jeff?
Possibly. I mean, these people were talking about not aggressively treating cancers with a lot of these drugs to try and cure the cancer, because all you ended up doing was forcing the most lethal cancer cells to survive by getting rid of the benign cancer cells.
Right.
And, it's just science is just a bitch and no one knows about it. And it's a continual learning and humbling experience. And I think it's good that your oncologist actually has an open mind. I wish you luck in your next drug adventure.
Thank you. I know she's going to tell me, she's going to say, give it 90 days, because that's her stock answer. Give it 90 days and we'll go from there. But anyway, enough of me. Thank you, guys.
Okay, this is Carl. I just wanted to add to the other person who mentioned, well, what type of medications should we be taking? And in my specific circumstance, based upon so-called precision medicine and genetic testing, as some of you are aware, based upon the fact that I have the BRCA2 gene, that it was recommended that I take the PARP inhibitor olaparib, and I've been on it for about a year now, and it continues to be undetectable. I just had my latest blood test yesterday, and I will be seeing my oncologist on Friday, and I'm crossing my fingers. Someone saying hello?
Someone is possibly on the
Yeah,
audio.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. This is Cherry Pelfrey. I'll just listen from now on, but I'm driving through Mexico, so I didn't know. Sorry to interrupt, but I'm listening.
That's okay. Thank you.
Okay.
My oncologist had also mentioned that should we reach the point where I need to change therapy, he would give me the ARV7 test to determine the effectiveness.
Carl, can we come back to you about your specifics when you need some time? Because I don't want to divert this into a specific issues about other people. Let's just keep it this general issue of the sequencing. But I have you down, and we'll definitely give you some time today. So I guess that let me just go on. We're going to move along, but somebody else has just arrived on the telephone. Who might that be?
Says Ken Anderson.
So, okay.
Is that you on the telephone, Ken?
The audio quality is suspect.
Jeff, the audio quality is not suspect. You may have had problems.
Yes.
I've been running this meeting weekly for as long as I can remember, and nobody else has ever had an issue. So I don't think that the audio quality is suspect. Okay? We've heard you. You've said it 4 times.
Got it.
Got it? Thank you.
Whoever it was dropped off anyway.
Yeah. Okay. So
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you very much.
yeah. So just keep us posted, Jake, and you know, we'll make sure that next week you're at the top of the list. That doesn't mean that we'll come to you first, though. All right. Peter Kafka, would you like to tell us a little bit about what happened to you yesterday?
Yeah, I'm presently in Los Angeles, sitting in a hotel room. I mean, not far from Alan, I don't know where you are. But anyway, I flew in Thursday night. Overnight, went up to see this doctor up at St. John's on Friday morning, and he scheduled me for a biopsy on Monday morning or Monday afternoon. Took the bus up to St. John's in Santa Monica yesterday, and it was pretty efficient. It's a pretty good hospital. I thought the doctor was very proficient, and I don't know what the results are. Hopefully on Thursday when I meet with Dr. Turner before I go home. So other than feeling a little bit sore, it's kind of like a prostatectomy, you know. It's sore, you know, 3 holes in the gut, and a little bit sore, but I'm doing okay. So I've been on Lupron for a month now, and I've been on darolutamide for 2 weeks, and I'm feeling pretty good. Now it hasn't hit me yet. I don't know what my testosterone is at this point. You know how far it's dropped, but I don't know if it's dropped much. We'll see. I'll probably do a blood test on Thursday when I go to Dr. Turner's office. But I'm on the DUDE program, so it's 2 months supply free of darolutamide. And I'm 2 weeks into it, so I've got another 6 weeks to go. And hopefully Dr. Turner will be able to get me approved for a longer stint. If not, I'll probably go on Lita as well. So I don't know. We'll see how it all shakes out that way. That's all I can tell you.
Peter, what was the procedure you had that made you sore?
I had a peritoneal biopsy.
Okay.
Because I did a scan in Stanford and picked up some suspicious what they call diffuse peritoneal implants. So it's things along my stomach lining, not in my stomach, but in the gut area, around the lining, in the peritoneal area. Some suspicious things they called implants. So that's what they sampled in their biopsy. So hopefully, as Alan indicated last week, maybe they're benign and nothing to worry about. But we wanted to get a sample of them anyway and see what it was. So one more thing I wanted to say, I sent it on to Rick earlier today. I got an email from Jim McCoy yesterday with a short 20-minute video by Dr. Colin Pritchard, who's the husband of Howard Chin up at the University of Washington. And it's a 20-minute explanation of the implications of genetic mutations for prostate cancer. And it's probably the clearest one I've ever heard. I learned some new things about my situation in it. I didn't think my situation was much to be concerned about, but I think it's more to be concerned about than ever before after listening to this guy. I thought mine was just a freak anomaly, but it isn't really. So anyway, I just wanted to bring that up because it's really worth watching. listening to. It's pretty good information, very concise, a little bit under the head, but I'll research it more to make sure I understand it. But I learned quite a bit out of that 20 minutes.
Peter, do you have the link to the YouTube? And could you, if you do, could you put it in the chat window for us, please?
Sure.
Thank you very much. And I have one other question before you do that. Are you noticing any difference on the darolutamide to what you experienced when you were on abiraterone?
I can't tell yet because I don't feel much difference of anything. I mean, I still feel pretty energetic. You know, I don't feel. I think I tolerated the Xtandi pretty well. I just felt a lot of memory issues, and I still have some memory issues. I mean, I'm still spacing out names and things quite a bit. So I think the Xtandi really hit me. You know, unless I'm getting it's an age thing. I don't know, but it's I sometimes can space out the name of drugs and people, and you name it. It drives me nuts sometimes. But we probably all feel that a little bit.
Have you had a PSA test since you started the darolutamide?
No, I'll probably get one on Thursday. Okay. It'll be about a month since I've had a blood test.
It's been 2 months, you said, correct?
But no, 2 weeks on darolutamide, 1 month on Lutathera.
Oh, forgive me, 2 weeks. I thought you said 2 months.
No, I've got the June trial is a 2-month free trial.
Oh, okay, that's right. That's what I got it from. Okay, sorry.
So you've been back on the Lupron about 4 months, for about 1 month, and you've been on the darolutamide about 2 weeks. And it's hard for you. I think what you're saying is it's hard for you to make a comparison to the abiraterone and the darolutamide because you feel the abiraterone left some permanent change in your cognitive ability.
I feel it did, but I'm not imagining it, but it sure came on.
Okay.
Can I ask another question to Peter? Since you stopped the abiraterone, did you do a washout of the prednisone? Did you taper it off, or did you just stop it?
I tapered it off.
You did? How many? Were you taking 5 or 10?
I was only taking 5.
It's very, very, very important to taper off the prednisone.
Even on the low dose of 5 milligrams?
Any dose. And your doctor should have told you that. And if she didn't, that's a real black mark. We've known people whose doctors omitted to tell them and then later confessed that and apologized. But I know of one case where a guy lost over 30 pounds and couldn't eat for about 3 or 4 months. He didn't know what was wrong with him. He thought the cancer had gotten into his gut. But what happens is that long-term use of the or even medium-term use of the prednisone suppresses the adrenals, and if you come right off of the prednisone, it shocks the adrenals and they get totally out of whack. And one of the things that can happen, there are several things that can happen, but one of them is that it really messes up your appetite. So be really, really careful. She should have given you instructions how to, I don't know the instructions to taper. I do know that you must ask her how to taper off. Okay. Jake, got it? Yeah. I think we lost Jake there.
You have to take it twice a day, and you got to remember to do that. You know, the morning's not hard to remember, but taking it in the evening when you have dinner or something like that is You just got to train yourself to do it and carry it around with you.
Right. Len, how are you handling taking it twice daily?
Oh, I'm not taking prednisone.
No. How are you handling taking darolutamide twice daily?
Oh, fine, no problems at all. I like the idea that I can take it with meals. So I have it with breakfast, and then I typically have a later dinner, perhaps, than most people. Breakfast maybe 8 a.m. Start dinner at 7. By the time I'm finished, it's 8, and then I take it. So
Okay. All right. Let's move along and talk to Jay Mills.
Yes, I'm with you. Can you hear me?
We can hear you just fine on the telephone. Can you hear us just fine?
Very good. Yes, yeah, very good, very good.
Okay.
I've had two things. One thing developing has been my blood pressure has started to come up, and more the lower number, the systolic, is in the higher 80s. Just at resting, it'll be in the high 80s. My upper number will fluctuate quite a bit, but my lower number tends to be in the high 80s or 90 than low 80s. Sometimes it is though. So anyway, that's been creeping up over months, but it's getting. And I'm on Degarelix and abiraterone and Flomax. So those are, I guess, the abiraterone may be contributing to that. And I've tried to turn up my exercise, doing more cardio work, hoping that would help. And it feels good and it works for a little while, but then I think it's not making much of a change.
You may not be getting enough prednisone.
Is that right?
Yeah. High blood pressure is a symptom of not getting enough of a replacement dose of prednisone.
I knew it had something to do with potassium and hypokalemia. And,
right. Low
okay.
potassium, edema.
Say again?
Low potassium, edema, and high blood pressure are the symptoms of if you're taking insufficient corticosteroids to compensate for what the Zytiga is taking away.
Got you.
So how many milligrams of prednisone are you taking?
I'm on the lowest dose, 2.5.
Oh, well, the minimum dose should be 5 milligrams. If you're castration resistant, they recommend you take 10 milligrams, 5 milligrams twice a day. So this is something you should discuss with your oncologist. Make sure you're getting prednisone.
Alan? Yeah, let me just comment to Alan. Actually, prednisone can raise blood pressure, Alan. So it isn't, whereas abiraterone is definitely known to increase blood pressure. So I wouldn't be too sure about increasing the prednisone, but
no,
yeah, like you say,
it's a replacement. When you take Zytiga, you're only taking a very small dose of prednisone to replace what's been lost. If you don't take enough, you get a negative feedback reaction, in which case your blood pressure goes up, your potassium goes down, and you're prone to get edema. So and everyone's going to be different. They recommend 5 milligrams with hormone-sensitive prostate cancer and 10 milligrams with castration-resistant prostate cancer. but those are estimates across the population. It has to be
Right.
tailored to the specific people, and your blood pressure and potassium levels should be checked while you're taking those.
And they have been, and my doctor has said he would use the potassium as the prime thing he was watching for.
Yeah.
And I have it checked monthly, and it has not gotten out of the normal range. And so, and I saw him about 2 weeks ago. I had blood about 2 weeks ago, and I had gone on the 2.5 because I carried an article to him that had said that they'd found that 2.5 was sufficient, and he was pleased. He said, "Yeah, I'm fine with doing the 2.5, and that if the potassium changes, we'll increase it. But otherwise, that sounds like a good plan." So that's where we are. Maybe it's need to ask that question, and I'll do that by text tomorrow. So I had one other question. If anybody has any other comments on that, I'd love to hear it. Any other thoughts?
Yeah, can I just say one thing on that, Jay, which is that
Sure.
I don't think I've ever heard anybody just taking 2.5. I've heard of them taking 2.5 twice a day, once in the morning, once at night.
Okay.
But not 2.5 alone, as which is much what Alan just said.
Is one question I have, is exercise ever mentioned in these meetings? Because I've read some studies that linked androgen deprivation therapy to the lack of muscle mass to the increase of aggressive metastatic cancer, that somehow muscle mass may act as a prophylactic against the worst of the aggressive cancers. And this is sort of a conundrum when you're on androgen deprivation therapy. And, a friend of mine just went through it, and he's podium on the 50-meter butterfly in the U.S. Masters. He hopes to still set a world record. But yes, I was just sort of wondering, does exercise, play a role in terms of, I did 800 hours on the bike last year. That's my annual goal. But I was just sort of wondering if that topic has ever come up.
Yeah, we talk about it all the time, Jeff.
And testosterone is, it's a big issue because is it possible to keep muscle mass on when you've got a testosterone of 3?
Pretty difficult.
Is
Well,
it
the best
possible?
you can hope for is that you minimize muscle mass loss with exercise. But we're getting way off topic here. I think.
Okay, yes, I just thought, the thing of blood pressure came up, and statins and all that kind of stuff. Okay.
I'm going to go back and reread that article about 2.5 and make sure that we had it right. And regardless, we're going to look at perhaps going up to 5. And
the other thing
tomorrow.
The other thing that I might do, are you on a blood pressure medicine?
No, I'm not.
Okay. So I started, I did 2.5 years of the hormone therapy, and I did need a blood pressure medicine when I got beyond a year. And I've been left on that blood pressure medicine because my GP thinks it's just good practice that everybody's on a blood pressure medicine. So, I'm not arguing with him. I'm on a very low dose of lisinopril. They gave me 2 medicines, lisinopril, and I always forget the other one, but I didn't do well on the other med. So we just left it with the lisinopril. But I don't think it's unusual to get onto a blood pressure medicine when you're on long-term hormone therapy. So, whilst all the other things are good, and it may be the prednisone, it could just be an effect of not having testosterone in your body, and because we know that is one of the effects.
Right.
When I
Right.
started,
The other,
when I started my blood pressure dropped right away. Right? Our research said about 30% of the guys in Antigua have blood pressure drops. And I went on blood pressure medication that resolved it. So I've been taking Wilsartan.
okay. The other thing is I've got some testicular pain, which is really epididymis sensitivity, and I'm gonna just take a see if it may be because of the being on abiraterone is maybe taking the testosterone so low that there's just nothing for those tissues to live on, or I don't know. Urologist has suggested just seeing if he said that's possible. I don't know. He said same with the oncologist, medical oncologist. He said I don't know. The urologist did an ultrasound, found nothing to cause, and then said you might try maybe epididymitis, bacterial. You could try something, try an antibiotic for a couple of weeks and see if it improves. Anybody have any of that going on with from the ADT? Testicular or epididymitis type thing?
Anyone else with any testicular issues, testicular pain as a result of being on the drugs that most of you are on?
Yeah, I can say I don't know about pain, but definitely like itchy balls. So, which is not normal for me. So I think it's just all about the shrinkage. Yeah, no doubt everything down below has changed.
Okay. All right. Those are my two questions today. And I'm going to try to take care of the blood pressure issue if it's indeed the quantity of prednisone.
Okay, and please
Thanks, guys.
Please do ask about blood pressure meds. Talk to your doc about blood pressure meds.
Okay.
Alan, do you have any thoughts on the testicular issues? Is it anything you've encountered at any of the support groups that you've ever attended?
No, I haven't, Rick. No, it's never come up.
Okay. All right. Let's
Thanks, guys.
let's move right along to Alan, who's next on my list.
Hey, well, I was hoping my friend Todd would come in today, but let me ask a question about a therapy we're looking at. It's called bispecific T cell therapy. It is it's a ligand that attaches to PSMA on PSMA avid cells, and on the other end, instead of lutetium or something like that, it has a T cell activator. So the idea is that it activates T cells to go in and destroy prostate cancer. And this is a very hot topic, as I understand. And there are several trials. Here, I'll post my current list. And we just spoke to someone at UCLA Friday, and we're speaking to Tanya Dorff of Hope tomorrow about it. I was wondering if anyone in the group has used it or has any feelings about it. one way or the other?
Len, isn't this the
CAR T. It sounds an awful lot like CAR T cell therapy. Is that what you're talking about, Alan?
No, but we will certainly be talking to Tanya Dorf about that as well. That's a whole separate conversation. CAR T cell, City of Hope has, in case you guys don't know, City of Hope has a clinical trial where they have CAR T cells activated to prostate cancer stem cell antigens. And so we'll hear how that's going. University of Pennsylvania have one where CAR T cells are activated towards PSMA. And I've heard they've already had one death on that clinical trial. So I'm a little scared about that. You know, anytime you're playing around with the immune system, that's a risk you're going to take, that the immune system, you're taking off the brakes and things are going to get overactivated and your immune system will start attacking you instead of just the cancer. So that's certainly a risk that we're going to have to discuss. My other
hold on a minute. Hold on. Let me chime in on this. I was actually, Len, thinking of the Regeneron trial, REGN 5678, that where the way your daughter-in-law works.
Right.
So what we are aware of, Alan, is the trial that Charles Drake is conducting at Columbia Presbyterian. I'll put the, you probably know it, but I'll put that trial number in the window.
I have it. Regeneron is one of the companies that are into it. Amgen is the other, is another company that has two chemicals, two medicines they're playing with, Amgen 160 and Amgen 509, and there's yet another set of trials with a Harpoon pharmaceutical. It's called Harpoon 424 that's trying out. So this is a very hot topic.
Right. I mean, I do know that the person that was considering it had the opportunity to talk to Jonathan Simon at PCF, and Simon thinks this is the most exciting area of development for prostate cancer. And again, let me just restate, the idea is that you have a molecule where at one end it's able to attract a T cell, and on the other end of the molecule it's able to find the prostate cancer. And so what it's doing is pulling these T cells right into the prostate cancer cells. I'm sort of oversimplifying it, but my little poor scientific mind, that's how I see it. I mean, my feeling is that it's a very, very exciting area. I really have no idea which are the better trials within this category, but I do know that the Regeneron trial is in phase 1, phase 2. I mean, if I was looking, I'd try to find one that was at least through phase 1. in phase 2 or phase 3, if there is anything out there, but it's so early on, I don't think so.
No. You're quite right. It's very early days. When we met with Dr. Liu at UCLA, she said she's just finishing her phase 1 trial, and she has one more slot to finish with, and then next month she'll be starting her phase 2 trial, in which case she's adding checkpoint blockade to it.
Wow.
So that should be a very strong therapy, and also a very dangerous one. And Todd's problem right now is that his AST numbers are too high, so he doesn't meet the cutoff for inclusion criteria. If I gave him the job of working to try and get his liver enzymes down. If he's able to do that, we can get him in on one of these trials.
Just as a point of interest, my AST numbers were high above average the whole time that I was on hormone therapy. And I actually raised that with my doc, and he didn't have a lot to say, but it does list as one of the side effects of androgen deprivation therapy.
His AST numbers are over 5 times the upper limit of normal. So it has to be just under 5 times in order to get included in the clinical trial.
Man. Well, the other thing I wanted to tell you is that Charles Drake recommended to this friend of ours that was considering the trial that he put him on docetaxel and said he should wait as long as he can, that the trial is a great trial, but he'd rather put him into the trial later on after the phase 1, phase 2.
Yeah, it's a race against time with Todd. He's got significant cancer in his liver. One of the lobes of his liver is completely full of cancer, of both kinds of cancer, PSMA avid and non-PSMA avid. So, which brings up my other reservation about this kind of therapy. If it's keyed to PSMA, is that going to liberate the other kind of cancer? And will the T cells also attack that other kind of cancer, or are they going to get programmed
great question.
to attack PSMA? So, and no one knows the answer because it's only in phase 1 trials right now.
It's a really great question. You finish up. I mean, Len and I right now are working very closely with one of our guys who's been with us for years and years and years, who has small cell neuroendocrine-like cancer in his liver, and we're trying to figure out Len, bless him, will be attending by telephone a meeting the guy's having with his doc at MSKCC on Friday, because once the cancer turns into that small cell neuroendocrine light, options get very, very reduced. And
have they looked for somatostatin receptors?
Well, that's a really good question, and I posed that, and Len and I did discuss that. And the question is, well, can some of these other some of these other contrasts be attached to to a lutetium-177 and used to attack the neuroendocrine. The problem is that nobody's doing that. Yeah, in theory it could be done, but we don't know anybody that's doing it. And so, our question is...
No, in fact, there's a drug approved for that called Lutathera, Lutathera. It's already FDA approved. It's lutetium-177 attached to a somatostatin analog. The question becomes, does small cell prostate cancer express somatostatin? It's frequently expressed in GI cancers, but not, it would be rare to be expressed in prostate cancer. So they have to do a biopsy and IHC analysis to see if somatostatin is being expressed. If it is, he can potentially get Lutathera, and it could be a great treatment for him.
Fantastic. Len, you got it?
No, give me the spelling again on Lutathera, Alan, please.
Lutathera. Here,
And what is the and what is the radioactive radionuclide that's attached to it?
Lutetium-177.
So you can attach that to lutetium-177. Okay. Yeah, Len, you remember we talked about this a little bit?
I don't remember Lutathera. That sounds
I
new to
didn't
me.
know about Lutathera, but we talked about a different thing to a PSMA.
Oh, yes.
I didn't know about Lutathera. Yeah.
I just posted some information about that.
Well, thank you so much. And we're really at a loss as to what to do. But again, let's not get further into that. Can we move on?
Sure.
Carl Foreman, what's on your mind?
Oh, there we go. I had to unmute myself. Just one item. And earlier today, I met a friend for lunch, and he was asking me about my recent vacation in December. And it took me a while to recall. And I'm thinking to myself, I've been really having some, and I don't want to call it serious, but I've been having some memory issues. And I know that's not unexpected with the medications that I'm on. And I'm wondering if there's something that can be done to improve my memory situation.
Who would like to take that one on? Well, let me rephrase that question. How many of you are having memory issues?
I do.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yes,
Okay.
I do.
Probably anybody who's on hormone therapy.
I have an unrelated memory issue with diagnosis of late onset epilepsy. So I would actually just double check to make sure that there's not another reason.
I have ongoing memory.
I did a email with a $300,000 transfer and didn't remember doing it the other day.
So, Larry, go ahead, please.
Just to chime in, I have ongoing memory issues. You know, I'm still working. It's quite challenging, and I work with lists, calendars, and lists. And oh my God, really? I forgot about this. I forgot about that. I don't have an exact solution.
Yeah, look, we know that memory issues are a big deal.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember who it was last week that told us that they met with Alicia Morgan's. Oh, I know who it was. It wasn't on this call. It was on the under 60s call. Right, Ken, and we had what's his name from Colorado, the mountain climber, and he had talked to Alicia Morgans, who's doing a lot of work in this field of cognition. I can only tell you what I've recommended now for a long time, maybe 10 years, and what worked for me when I was on hormone therapy. So I was only on ADT. I wasn't on any other drugs. But I specifically spent 15 to 30 minutes every single day challenging my memory. And what I did was played bridge online. Because for those who are bridge players, as you know, you have to remember the cards that have been played. And so I would concentrate very hard on trying to remember what cards had been played. And I played a rubber or bridge every night for after starting about 9 months out on my hormone therapy. And it definitely helped. Now, we've recommended other people do Sudoku. I had this chat with Ken Anderson just recently. You could do word puzzles. Just do anything that forces you to remember, and do it daily for a period of time. And my feeling is that you will see an improvement pretty quickly. I mean, you're not going to get back to your baseline, sadly, I don't think. But I do think it will help. So that's my input. What do others have to say?
A far more accessible card game besides bridge is Oh Hell, but it falls into the same kind of realm in terms of remembering cards. And it's easy to learn.
Okay.
I play bridge, by the way, but it's a tall order.
Is Oh Hell online?
Yes, and you can play against the computer too.
Okay, perfect.
It is lightweight bridge.
Okay. Anybody else have any suggestions?
This is Jake. I agree with the crossword puzzles. I try to do them, and they seem to help me. I did try Sudoku, but I couldn't figure it out, so I gave up. But bridge. I used to play Pinochle, which I suspect is kind of similar. But anyway, I do crossword puzzles periodically, and I think that does help. Basically, I think anything that stimulates or uses your mind, stimulates your mind, is going to be a benefit.
Right. Has anybody noticed the benefit? Has anybody tried this regular daily routine and seen that it makes a difference?
Well, it's hard to know. It's hard to know what the difference would be because, you don't know how your cognitive function would be if you weren't doing it.
Right.
Well, you do, because you know how you are at the beginning. You right now, that's your baseline. Now try it for a month and see if you're any better. I mean, I don't buy that. I think everybody on this call seems to think they have memory issues. Well, you know what those memory issues are right now. Try this for a month and see if you're any better at the end. If you're exactly the same, it didn't help you, but maybe you're not having as many memory issues.
Certainly
It would also be worthwhile to contact a neurologist.
Well, I don't think so, because we know that hormone therapy treatment causes these issues. We know it. It's recorded, it's studied. And, once you go in and you see the neurologist and you say to the neurologist, well, but I've been on Lupron for the past 3 years, they're going to say, well, what do you expect? I mean, if you're having these memory issues and you're not on Lupron or some other form of ADT, I would agree with you. I would say you're right. Yeah, go see a neurologist. But we know that this is an integral part of being on hormone therapy, on androgen deprivation therapy.
I think it's just part of the general category of mental fog that people seem to have, and I think memory is part of that. Being able to think clearly is part of that. I think they're all related. Personally, I feel like I feel like I have a head cold all the time. My head just feels stuffed up, and I call that the mental fog.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I know the feeling, Jake. I mean, I used to wake up in the morning and feel like I'd been hit by a Mack truck. I mean, that's sort of, my head being stuffed up, and it would take a couple of hours for that to go away. And that's the feeling that a lot of you guys have,
yeah.
But right the way through the day. And I'm truly empathetic. But I do think that, and I don't want to sound like a broken record, and I've told you all this before, but that's what worked for me. And I wish that some of you guys who had these issues would go through this exercise and challenge your memory. Now, for someone like Larry Fish, it's a little different because he's in a work environment, and God bless him, he's managing, and he's maybe not be as productive as he would like to be. But his memory is being challenged because he's in there working every day. But if you're not working, you don't necessarily challenge your memory. And so I'd like to see all of you challenge your memory daily.
I agree. As I may have mentioned on this call before, I try to learn a foreign language. I think, that's very stimulating to the brain.
Right.
But, find whatever subject interests you and should be intellectually challenging. And also, as I've mentioned before, I personally feel methylphenidate, generic name for Ritalin, could be helpful. Alan, maybe you should, not Alan, Carl, you should talk to your doc about methylphenidate or Ritalin. Could make you a little bit mentally sharper.
Okay. One thing that I did was started taking monthly tests so I could objectively measure my memory. So there's some simple tablet tests that you can do that give you like random numbers and it's a pattern. They're lightweight tests, but that's one of the things to do would be to somewhat objectively try to quantify your memory and then look at it every 3 to 4 weeks. Mm-hmm. And the one that I use is it just displays random numbers and you have to click on them in the pattern of the shapes of when the numbers disappear. Short-term memory, and you can basically it gives you a quote-unquote brain age, but that's sort of bogus. But basically somehow quantifying your memory with a reproducible objective test might be a good metric on a monthly basis.
I think that's one way to certainly create that baseline for yourselves, is to do some sort of test like that, and then you know where you are, and then go through these tests. I mean, for example, Len, let me ask you, do you have a program where you try and learn 10 words of vocabulary a day or something?
You mean for the foreign language?
Yes, for your Italian.
Yeah, I regret to say I'm not that disciplined that I have every day I try and learn 10 new vocabulary words. I mean, I just, as I read books in Italian, I'll stumble across words I'm not familiar with and I'll look them up. but it's it's not a formal regimented. Today I must learn 10 vocabulary words.
But you see, I think that in order to improve your memory, that's what it's got to be. I think you've got to go through that. You've got to put yourself in that position every day where for 15 to 30 minutes you're challenging your memory. That's my feeling. And it's like anything else, like exercise or any regimen. It's hard to get into, but once you get into it, it is a lot better. It works, and it's much easier to revert. I'm keeping an eye on the clock here, and Carl, can we move along?
Yes, go right ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. Dennis, Korea, you had a quick question.
Yes, this is what we talked about the other day, Rick. It's has to do with the risk of blood clots when flying, say cross-country flight or something like that. My diagnosis and so forth, I'm metastatic, and went through chemo with docetaxel and Firmagon, both started about the same time, and I ended up in the hospital with multiple blood clots in both lungs, and pneumonia at the same time. So as a result of that, I went on Lovenox. That's the daily injections into your love handles along your waist, and I was eventually able to get off of that by blood testing. Could determine that my blood clots that I had dissolved, and I was able to get off of it. And at that time, I was told that this is a side effect of both the cancer itself, as well as the treatments that I was on contributed to this. I never had a blood clot issue my whole life. And now I'm still on the Lupron, abiraterone, and prednisone. And I will take this up with my doc, but I'm just wondering if anybody has heard this or, had similar treatments that I did, similar issues, and are able to fly without increasing their risk of blood clots.
Do you take an aspirin, Dennis?
Pardon?
You take an aspirin every day?
No.
That might be, you might want to consider that. I mean, some people recommend that for your heart health anyway. And basically the clotting factor. Low dose aspirin, even though the jury's out on whether it's safe or not, I've been doing it for years and I've never had a blood clot, knock on wood.
Yeah, okay. I take a low dose. I take a baby aspirin as well daily, because as Jake says, it is controversial, but there have been several studies that think that it helps in controlling inflammation and cancer. The downside is that I bleed like a stuck pig if I cut myself, but it's worth the trade-off. Anybody else? Has anybody else who's been on long-term hormone therapy ever discussed the issue of clotting and flying and risk of clots? Because most of you on the call have done hormone therapy for a long time, either continuously or intermittently.
Well, my answer to that is just don't fly.
Yeah, we know. We know. Man, what about you? You fly?
I do fly. I've never had the issue. Of course, I do know from our friend in Canada, Tony, Marguerite's husband, that Lupron can certainly cause cardiovascular issues like blood clotting. So I think it's good, Dennis, that you're on Lovenox.
No, I'm not on it now. I'm not on it now.
You're not.
I was able to get off of it. I mean, it was a really pain having to get those injections every day, and so I wanted to get off as soon as I could. And I did have some left over, and so we just put it in the refrigerator. And Doc said, you know, if you think you need to go somewhere or fly or whatever, you'll have those around, and just give yourself the injections and go ahead and fly. But I don't want to have to do the injections if I don't have to.
Sure. There are oral anticoagulants you could take.
Yeah. For what I had, they had suggested not to use what's that popular? A couple of popular ones that you can get that oral. But they said
Plavix.
not. Yeah, there was issues that you had to watch your diet because it could counteract with the drug or something. And is prednisone, is that something that would contribute to the blood clotting also, or
Not to my knowledge.
no? No. Okay.
But I just once had a friend of mine who is prone to blood clots for a different reason. His doctor has him wear compression stockings every time he flies or takes a long drive.
Right. Yeah, I've heard of that too. Thank you.
Yeah, that's been recommended to me. So when you get in that swift little Porsche of yours and drive to Colorado Springs, Mr. Correa, you may need to put some compression stockings on.
Yeah, we stop every minimum of every 2 hours.
Okay.
I get them walk around. Yeah, I've seen those. Yeah.
But I do think Jake's suggestion of a daily aspirin is something worth running past your PCP, or even better, asking Dr. Singh.
Yeah, I plan to do it. Just thought I'd just check with the group if anybody else has encountered that.
Has anybody not taken an air flight because of this concern? Okay.
Yeah, I know. I suspect even on an aircraft, I get up and walk around a little bit, periodically, and that would help too.
Okay.
I think that's the key, just moving around when you're on an airplane. I don't think, the pressurized cabin, that shouldn't cause blood clots, but the sitting still in a cramped position is probably what causes the blood clots more than anything. I worry about my son. He's flying all the time, China, India. The World Bank has him on the go all the time, and I worry about him.
Because I did a lot of flying when I was working. I was flying all over the world basically, so never had a problem.
He's not chasing the stewardesses, Jake?
I don't know. If he is, he's not telling me, put it that way.
Okay. Just checking. Is this the one that just that just bought that beautiful old house?
Yep, that's the one.
Oh well, he's got a significant other, so I hope he isn't chasing the stewardesses.
I hope he's not either. You're right.
Yeah. How's he doing with all those tools? Has he used any yet?
Oh yeah, he climbed up on the roof the other day. The one tool that I asked him not to take was my drill. I have a really nice Makita drill, and I asked him, don't take that, but he took it by mistake. And then he ended up using it. He was up on the roof putting some kind of cell phone extender thing on his chimney, because they had to find a certain spot on a hill or something to get a signal. They bought a booster or an amplifier of some type, and he put it in. So he did use that.
Okay. Well, I make sure he gives it back to you. Okay.
I got it back. He was here yesterday. He brought it back to me.
Okay, that's okay. All right, we're going to move along to Mr. Anderson, who's got some significant issues to discuss.
All right. Um, well, the issue is just whether or not, to start. Well, actually, my PSA has gone up. So, it had one good reading after I started enzalutamide, then 1 month, 60 days out, enzalutamide kind of failed and my PSA went up. On the third month, my PSA went up. So we've kind of found the trend that enzalutamide's not going to be the drug for me. So I guess my question, which I've also posed to my local med-onc and my doctor at MD Anderson, is kind of what next? What is next? He had stated switching out Lupron to Firmagon as one option, and then giving it a try and seeing whether or not a different, and moving from an agonist to an anti-agonist or an antagonist. And at one time he'd recommend switching enzalutamide to abiraterone plus prednisone because it works a little differently. So, at the moment I have an email out to him just wondering what he wants me to do next. I know enzalutamide is not working, so I have to do something else. But, I have a 30-day supply of enzalutamide, and it sounds like he wants me to just turn back to enzalutamide and then switch to Firmagon. So what are your guys' thoughts?
Well, and we should add that Ken and I have gone back and forth several times on the value of an ARV7 test at this juncture. But we've discussed it extensively. So, what do other people think? And do you have any very specific questions? Like,
no, not really.
Okay.
Just kind of reporting what's going on.
So are you on the abiraterone now, Ken? Did you start it?
No, I didn't start it. Actually, the specialty pharmacist in the beginning of the year was switched out from one specialty pharmacy to the other. So I just recently got the prescription filled for enzalutamide, which was 4 or 5 days late. They didn't have it in stock, the new company, which was, I don't know, Brovia or something like that, or maybe another company. But it showed up here in Maui a couple days or 3 days after my last pills ended. So I'd figured I was going to switch straight on to abiraterone plus prednisone, but Paul had offered as another possible solution, just going ahead and switching out, my 90-day shot from Lupron to Firmagon. So I might try that. I don't know. It's kind of a unknown.
What is your testosterone level?
Over the last 3, maybe 4 months, it's gradually creeped up. When it was at its lowest, it was around 6, and it's gradually gone up to 24. So, and Paul had stated that enzalutamide would probably raise my T level a little bit, which was expected. He was kind of miffed by the fact that I got a 1 month response on enzalutamide, and then it immediately failed. So he didn't know what to say. So probably switched on that AR gene or AR, it's not really gene, enzyme, I guess.
Well, it's true that like ARV7 is one mutation that of the androgen receptor where it becomes impervious to an androgen blocker like enzalutamide or even abiraterone. But I guess one of the questions is it worth testing for? Personally, I don't think it is, because why not just try the drug and see if it works? There are other mutations other than ARV7 that can cause resistance to these things. and doing a very expensive test for just one kind of mutation doesn't seem worthwhile, although I've got to agree that those drugs are expensive. So 1 month of enzalutamide could cost much more than an ARV7 test, but I don't know if an ARV7 test tells you the whole story. Also, my inclination would be to go back and forth between hormonals and chemos uh, in the hope of resensitizing it. So, have you done Taxotere yet?
I did docetaxel, as a standard 6 rounds in the beginning, maybe 2 years ago. So I can handle chemo fairly well. Not
Well,
liking it. Yes,
yeah.
I have.
I mean, I would switch to cabazitaxel, Jevtana this time, uh, just based on that recent study that showed as a third line therapy, it seems to be superior. And again, the idea of just going back and forth. After you do Jevtana, you could retry abiraterone and see if you get more life out of it. And do you have bone metastases?
Yep, I have 3.
Have you had Zofigo yet?
I have not.
So that's of course another option, and Provenge, of course.
Yeah, I've done Provenge.
Yeah, I would say on the Zofigo, and Ken and I have talked about this too. I'm not a big fan of the Zofigo for a number of reasons. One of them is that right now, if you've done Zofigo, it's hard to get onto a lutetium 177 trial. And I don't think that in my view, the Zofigo is as good a drug as a PSMA lutetium 177 or any radionuclide 177. Any radionuclide PSMA trial. So
That's a valid hypothesis, but I don't think there's any data yet to back that up. You may be right, but we certainly don't have that data. There are only a few trials of lutetium 177 going on still in the United States. For the most part, you'd have to go to Germany or Australia or India or South Africa to get it, in which case they don't have that requirement that Zofigo disqualifies you, because it's per protocol, it's not on a clinical trial in those places. So I don't know that. And I also would raise an alternative hypothesis that if you have bone mets and you don't have any visceral mets, maybe Zofigo is better than the PSMA type radionuclides because it doesn't depend on PSMA avidity. It works on all bone mets.
It's Larry. Sorry.
And it's an alpha emitter, which is much stronger than lutetium, which is a beta emitter.
Larry, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I wanted to go. My idea before Alan brought it up was this idea of thinking about revisiting chemotherapy for a course of chemotherapy followed by returning to enzalutamide or abiraterone. Like I was wondering that study that there is that study that's been going on for a while. I don't know if anybody gets results where they were switching every 3 months they were going from chemo to enzalutamide to abiraterone, back to chemo, back to enzalutamide. I know there was one specific study that I've been looking at. And Ken, by the way, I'm sorry to hear that enzalutamide failed so quickly. It's kind of
Yeah,
dispiriting. Wow.
it really didn't work.
But just to discuss with the doctor the idea of an appropriate carboxytoxyl or even docetaxel, if that's what they want to suggest. But the study, I think, was going back with docetaxel. But I don't know if Alan's familiar with that clinical trial, but I've been watching it for a few years. And I've always been thinking about that as the next kind of a trial to suggest and discuss with my doctor, who didn't have an opinion one way or the other. But I don't see why you wouldn't want to try something like that, and if there's not a better idea afloat. That's just all I wanted to support.
Well,
I think that's a good idea. Ken, have you had the foundation test?
Yeah, I did. Nothing showed.
Okay. So if they're not showing any AR mutations, it may very well be that abiraterone will work for you.
Yeah, I think that's what Paul was hoping.
Yeah.
I think the first attempt just to switch out to Firmagon is a shot in the dark, but I don't know. Maybe it'll give me.
That might work.
I
Yeah.
have no, I
But
have
I
no
agree
idea.
with Alan. Rather than the ARV7, I would just try the abiraterone and give it 90 days, and if it works, great. If not, then you need to do something else. That's my philosophy. I'm the conservative type.
Well, that's what both my local medonc had stated, that she really doesn't see any value in having the ARV7 test because it's not going to guide where the next treatment path might go. Paul was a little evasive in regards to a direct at MD Anderson. He said there's good, I can read you what he actually wrote because I had it up because I would not misquote him. He said regarding ARV7, we do not run tests at MD Anderson, but it's not a bad test. If you have the ability to get it, run there where you are, I assume. The present ARV7 predicts one is less likely to respond to enzalutamide or abiraterone, but it's not a perfect test. I have had some patients get the test at Johns Hopkins and were positive, but ended up responding to Abby.
Right.
So he's kind of stating that he's okay with doing the test, but Rick and I don't agree necessarily on how the verbiage is structured, but I kind of read it as that he's kind of stating that he would take, and just above that he says, if that does not help, which is taking Firmagon, we're at that point looking at most likely changing the drug. So, if Firmagon doesn't work, then switching out the drug to Abby, I think, is his next thing. But he's not against doing the test, that's for sure. I don't know the cost, and I'm going to call them just to find out. But I don't know that doing the test, and I wrote him an email recently and asked whether or not doing the test and finding out whether or not I was ARV7 positive, whether or not he would still then go ahead and take and push me towards abiraterone. So in my mind, I think the answer to that is yes, but he hasn't stated that outright. So
Personally, Ken, if it was me, I would go with the abiraterone, try it 90 days, and then as Larry has pointed out, try the chemo to resensitize.
yeah, I like Alan's Jevtana.
Right.
It's probably going to be a better chemo for me. So, but again, I would hope that would come from Paul. He's supposed to be the guy that's in the know. But I appreciate your comments for sure, Alan. But at some point, no doubt, Paul will bring that up. He hasn't as of yet. He's kind of moving around chemo.
Is that Paul Korn?
That is Paul Korn, yeah.
Yeah, he's running a trial of Jevtana plus carboplatin, I know, and with the idea of starting someone off on that and then moving to a PARP inhibitor as a maintenance medicine. So
Right.
that's certainly worth talking to him about.
Yeah, and also they're running the lutetium 177. Logos Diaz there is running that trial at MD Anderson now. So Paul said the results should be out mid-year. And he's waiting like everyone else to see what the trial brings forth.
What's the concept behind the carboplatin plus cabazitaxel followed by a PARP inhibitor, Alan?
For metastatic castration-resistant prostate cancer, their hypothesis is that the dual targeted chemo, there's a synergy in giving that, and that in that it's better than Jevtana alone. So that's what their clinical trial is. I believe they're comparing the combo to Jevtana alone to see if it has more activity.
Okay.
And porn is
BRCA2 positive for that, for the olaparib?
What?
You have to be BRCA2 positive
No.
for that test?
No, not on that trial. But you're raising a good point. I mean, since the trial started, we've learned a lot more that being BRCA positive seems to be a critical thing for PARP inhibitors to work. So this is a problem when you have these long-running clinical trials that start with one set of assumptions and midway down they've learned a different thing. So I don't know if he's going to change it because of that, but it's a very good point.
You were going to say something else about Paul Korn, and then we must move on.
Who's that, Rick?
I said Alan was going to say something else, I think, about Paul Korn.
No, I
okay.
Just said he's PI on that.
Okay. Ken, we've given you a bunch of good ideas here.
No, I understand. I appreciate them all.
So, keep them in mind. I think the biggest downside of not doing an ARV7 trial is that you're going to spend 90 days figuring out whether the abiraterone works or not. That's really, apart from financial issues, but that's the biggest issue. You've got to give it enough time to see if it works or it doesn't work. So that's what you've got to weigh up. Okay, Jeff.
Well, I don't think honestly, I don't think I'd wait 90 days. After 30 days, if it doesn't look like it's working, I'm moving on to something else. So, but anyway, that's just me, and I'll discuss that with Paul.
Okay. Jeff, we have about 10 minutes max, so it's yours, guys. We're going to run over about 10 minutes. Jeff? Are you there?
Jeff, you're muted.
There you go. Speak up.
Still can't hear you.
I think he's still muted.
He shows that his microphone is working. I think he's been having audio issues with his connection right the way through. I'm not really sure why.
Well, I don't know. My status shows him muted. I don't know how you guys see him as unmuted.
He shows up as unmuted on mine. Now he doesn't show up as anything.
Maybe send him a chat message.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, now it says that the microphone is on. Can you see that?
I can't. I see it as red with a line through it.
I mean, on mine it's
I see it as he's on as far as I'm concerned too.
Yeah, I somehow or other, I think it has to do with the interface that he's using, and that's why he was having a problem in the beginning. Jeff, here's what I would suggest. Call GoToMeeting and talk to them about the problems that you're having, because clearly you are having issues with your audio connection that other people are not having, and see if they can help you troubleshoot. They've helped a bunch of people here. I can put the number in the chat window for you. Just bear with me and I'll see if I can find it quickly. Contacts. GoToMeeting. GoToMeeting. Christy. So, okay. I'm going to put
logging off and logging back on works too.
Yeah, it's okay. So I've just put that's the number for the support. I sent it to Len. I didn't mean to just send it to Len. I want to send it to everyone. It's always a good thing if you're having these issues. Call the GoToMeeting people. I mean, they did this for Jerry Deans the other day. Call the GoToMeeting people and just tell them that you're having issues both with your connection, and I know that Jeff pinned a number to the phone at the beginning, and that might be the reason why. But I'm sure we'll get him next time. Okay, so our next meeting is next Monday, the 20th. What I do want to say before everybody leaves is that we have a Speaking Freely meeting on Thursday at 8 o'clock Eastern, which I would invite you all to. Please show up. It's a very good meeting. The lead moderator is Rich Jackson, and it is a pan-cancer meeting to discuss all the issues around cancer other than treatment. So if there's stuff on your mind that isn't necessarily treatment related, please come on that call, and we are very, very happy to discuss those issues with you. And we will meet again next Monday at 8 o'clock Eastern. Okay? And Peter sent his apologies. He had a friend show up, so he had to hop off the call. They arrived earlier than expected, so he had to hop off the call. But by next Monday, he should be back sitting in front of his banana trees again. So we'll, and hopefully he'll have gotten a biopsy result that says that it was all negative. That's what we hope for him. All right, Len, I'll give you a buzz in a couple.
Okay, Rick.
Okay, and the rest of you, I say good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alan, for some great information on this call. Thank you, thank you.
You're very welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.